They are desperate for something different. They're desperate for solutions. What they've tried to do is not working.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together. Let's dive into the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. I am one of your hosts, Holly, and today I'm joined with Gary Compton, who's been a therapist and has been supporting those struggling with their mental health for over 30 years. He spent the last 20 years in his career in the community mental health field. Then the last 10 years worked as the team lead on the crisis mobile team. He retired from the mental health field 2 years ago and started his own exploration with plant medicine therapy, as well as supporting others explore that, which I'm really excited to dive into because there's so much great research coming out about plant medicine and how it can support people with their mental health struggles with bipolar, PTSD, anxiety, depression. There's really positive research coming out, which I'm so excited about. And plant medicine has supported me a bit on my healing journey as well. So I'm excited to dive into that. But I met Gary at a retreat about a month ago, and he's just such a beautiful soul doing really powerful work. I really saw him and his dedication to this work and his own healing journey, which I feel is so rare. Yeah, he's just such a good storyteller with a wealth of knowledge and wisdom to share. So I'm so excited for this conversation. So, welcome, Gary. If you want to just share a short summary, maybe about yourself, your background, what you do, why you got into this work, yeah, we would love to hear.
First, thank you, Holly, for that introduction. And I'm so excited to be here with you. I got my master's degree in counseling psychology back in 1986. I spent a little time in a private practice for a couple of years. I then worked in 3 psychiatric hospitals, which I found very educational and helpful for my overall growth and understanding mental illness. I then moved to Oregon. I was in Phoenix and wanted to get out of the city, so I moved to Oregon and started working in a community mental health um, for the county mental health system, and primarily working with the chronically mentally ill, those people who suffered from disorders such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and supporting them in the community. And then I ended up spending the last 10 years of my career working on the crisis mobile team, um, doing psychiatric evaluations on people who were having either a mental health crisis, um, or they were struggling with addiction issues, or struggling with a psychotic break, and would evaluate them for either placement in a psychiatric hospital or developing a safety plan and support system to help them through their crisis. Um, so that's kind of my career in a nutshell as to um,
Yeah.
what I was doing for 30 years.
Yeah, you've done so much. I'm sure you've seen so much, especially like in the psychiatric ward. I feel like that would be, like you said, a really good learning opportunity too, to see there's just so much struggle in the world. I feel like people are really struggling, and that's like really going into that to get to the depth to see like what people can really be going through. And even like with bipolar schizophrenia, I feel like those things are becoming more and more talked about, more and more common, so just being there, the work that you do is so needed, being able to really see and understand and be there for these people, like it's just so needed.
Yeah, I think it was very helpful for me early on in my career because, in school, you're reading a lot and you're being taught about these different disorders, and you pretty much have what's written in the books or what your teachers are explaining to you. but to really experience firsthand what a manic episode is as part of a bipolar disorder, and see that when the person's in crisis to the point where they need to be brought into an emergency room, held against their will, and put in a psychiatric hospital for their own safety and the safety of others, and
Mhm.
then being able to see firsthand what that looks like, what the person's going through. And then, even more important, is over the weeks of working with these people, whenever I was there, is seeing what medication can do for people with chronic mental illnesses, how it
Mhm.
can help them restabilize. And then, after they were there in a safe environment on proper medication, getting the support, the counseling that they needed, that this person started to emerge out of what was a previous psychotic episode, and finding out they were just like you and I. But they
Yeah.
did have this mental illness they were struggling with that became unmanageable, or they weren't taking the proper medications. So just seeing the whole process and really understanding what the different aspects of the illness looks like, and what recovery looks like, and what health looks like in someone that's working through mental illness.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be really rewarding, or like, help being able to see someone starting at like such this low place of like, a manic episode and really struggling to then, getting on the right medication, getting the support they need, and then figuring out, oh, they're just like you and I, and then they come to this realization of nothing's wrong with them. They're not broken, like I can see that being really fulfilling. I'm sure not all cases are like that though. Like I feel like, some people really struggle for years without getting the proper support that they need. What I've seen in the mental health space is we often I I believe medication 100% has its time and place, like 100% has its time and place. It's supported so many people in my life that I know, and it's a beautiful thing. And I feel like giving like anxiety medication like Zoloft or
A lot of the SSRIs are prescribed for anxiety.
Mhm.
The Zolofts, the Paxils, the Wellbutrins.
Yeah, I think that those are all very powerful and definitely have their time and place. Like, I know that they can really support people getting to a beautiful baseline of like getting stable again, which is so needed and so necessary. And I respect that. I feel like there's definitely a place for that. But it feels like these are kind of band-aids to much deeper issues that are going on within people. I feel like doing the inner work, the deeper work, the inner child work, the like talking through things, the feeling, getting back in your body, being more embodied is so necessary, which I don't know if like talk therapy, do you feel like the therapy that you were doing, could you tell that it was really like supporting people, I guess, and feeling and actually like long-term change, like what with the prescriptions of medications and just doing the talk therapy?
Yeah, let me go jump back to where you said I think that especially antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications are used as band-aids too frequently. And part of that is because in the state I live in, there's just limited resources for mental health services
Mhm.
when people are trying to work through issues. And it's a lot of times people go to their primary care physicians to get prescriptions for antidepressants, and that can help people for the short run, but the
Mhm.
underlying issues that are causing the depression and anxiety, a lot of times not only situational events in their life, but deeper trauma wounds or inner child work.
Mhm.
Um, that that's when the talk therapy, insight orientated therapies, yes, are it's what's the most desirable, and what could be most helpful is to get to a point where you are able to do some inner child work or to do
Mhm.
some trauma work with people.
Mhm.
Uh, those type of services tend to take longer, tend to
Yeah.
be more costly,
Mhm.
and So it's a combination of sometimes people want to come in and be fixed quickly. Sometimes people come in asking just for antidepressants, or come in and they just want to, they don't want to talk about the past. They just want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But for those people who come in wanting some more deeper work, some inner child work to work on trauma, sometimes the system doesn't allow that because the system's more set up for solution orientated brief therapy,
Mm-hmm.
which is just lowering symptoms, making improving things. They're always asked to be put on a rating scale. What's your level of depression today? Well, it's a 9. And then after 3 or 4 sessions, if they get them down to a level of a 6, then they're ready for discharge.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's much long it's so much deeper than that, you know? It's like getting to the root of what's causing this depression, this anxiety, this, whatever it may be. I feel like so often in our society we're looking for a quick fix, like, oh, prescribe me this medication, I'll start feeling better, bam, I'm good, I can get out, but I feel like something that I always talk about is there's no such thing as a quick fix, even when it comes to your health. These fad diets, the supplements, the workout plans, the meal plans, it's like there's no such thing as a quick fix. It's like
Right.
actually having to show up for yourself each and every day and get to the root and, really make long lasting, sustainable changes for yourself that are beneficial for your mental health, your physical, emotional well being. It's a lifestyle change, and it takes so much. It takes time and inner work, and it's hard, but it's so rewarding. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like there's much more deeper things that we need to get to really support people and making long lasting change, and not just putting short band-aids on people and sending them on their way, you know?
Yeah, and I think when I first met you and we started talking, and I think started just talking about this Band-Aid effect in the mental health system, and that's when I was sharing with you that in my last 10 years of doing crisis work, and this is where people are at the point of actively thinking about suicide,
Mm-hmm.
or they've got themselves into, have made some very bad choices, and are at risk of going to jail, of losing their housing, have lost their job. They've hit rock bottom, and they don't really see a way out of this, and they are either overusing substances and just not functioning well, or they're having a nervous breakdown, as people say, or they're just suicidal. But that underneath all that, but what's also good about working in that area when people are like that is they are open to change.
Mm-hmm.
They are desperate for something different. They're desperate for solutions. What they've tried to do is not working,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where they're considering harming themselves, um, out of desperation. But given another avenue, they will explore that if they think that that's a viable option out of the pain and suffering they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what evolved over time with me is connecting with people on their, um, usually their childhood or adolescent traumas, and helping educate them how, um, that's the underlying source of this suffering that they're going through. Then these protections they have in place that are designed initially to be a survival mechanism to get them out of the trauma, but now as an adult, these dysfunctioning coping skills, or what were survival skills are now dysfunctional coping skills, are actually creating problems in their life
Mm-hmm.
and are causing a lot of suffering for them. And once they make the connection uh, to their trauma, and how their trauma is impacting who they are today, and how they're perceiving and interpreting the world, and how they're interacting with people, and they can see that connection, and then explaining the role of doing inner child work, going back and doing some trauma informed therapy, they it makes sense to them. It
Mhm.
makes sense to them logically and rationally that this is what's occurred over their life, and then it opens a door for them to step into. And when I first started doing crisis work, I was able to get people into therapy sometimes within a week.
Mhm.
And then over time, as our system got more overloaded, especially going through COVID, I would work with someone in crisis and get them to make that connection, how what's going on in their life today is associated with their trauma. But I couldn't get them in for a counseling appointment to start the work for up to 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's so hard, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
They're
So at
already, like,
that,
at a point of desperation and then,
yeah,
like, another 4 or 5 weeks. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that
So
would
that,
be really hard.
so that was at the point where I just said, I just feel like I'm putting band-aids on these situations. And I would see 3 months later, see the same person in the emergency room again in the same situation because they hadn't been able to get the help they needed.
Mhm.
So that really brought me to kind of my own personal breaking point of, it doing trauma work takes a lot of energy and crisis work. Um, and when you just see kind of a revolving door going on with these people, it's hard to maintain a an optimistic, positive attitude when working with these people. Um, so I really started looking at things as to what I need to be doing something different, and that's about the time when all this information and research was coming out about psychedelics,
Mhm.
and so that's what I started to get hopeful and excited about, that this could be, or I definitely believe now is a just a powerful tool, powerful therapy, a real opportunity for growth and change that
Mm.
didn't have in the mental health field.
Yeah, I think so too, and yeah, that would just be really hard work to be doing, especially during COVID. I can't imagine, I've heard so many times like our medical health system really failed us during COVID. Like there were so many people struggling, and, we all collectively went through a trauma together. And if you were already really on the verge struggling with your mental health, I can't imagine, how could spiral. So is that kind of the point when you got kind of burnt out and you started shifting a bit?
Yes, yeah, and it was also this concept of the uh, of really seeing connecting with people with their underlying traumas and
Mhm.
how it just as time went on and working with more and more people, I was able to kind of streamline my approach to, I'd make my assessment, but I would really try to start working with the person to get to kind of the core of the situation, and start doing some work there with them in the emergency room if possible, because they were tended to be most receptive. And what like I said, I just was able to see how much of this is trauma related.
Right.
And the even when you could get them into counseling, a lot of times the counseling services weren't providing, didn't have the tools to help people heal or recover or understand their trauma.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think too, it's something that I'm really learning just even through the books I've read, through my own journey. It's like you can't talk out trauma either. It's not something that can be talked out. It has to be felt. Where I think talk therapy is amazing because you can get to like the root of maybe where something's stemming from, kind of like talk through solutions.
yeah,
But in order to actually heal your trauma, you have to feel it.
yeah,
And I think that's where talk therapy, there's something needs to shift a bit where the more embodied, like holistic, just really allowing yourself to feel your emotions and
yes,
not so that's the true work of being able to heal your trauma is by feeling it,
yeah, yeah,
so getting to the
yeah.
root. Yeah.
The somatic therapies that are coming out, and there's
Yeah.
fortunately I see the mental health field moving in that direction, which I think is a healthy direction. In fact, if I would go back in time, I'd probably get my degree in somatic therapies or
Mhm.
somatic healing. Um, so yeah, I'm very optimistic and hopeful that the system is moving and evolving in the direction of helping people um, work through their traumas in a more embodied way.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that the somatic therapy that's coming out is really beautiful, and like EMDR therapy, even like I just became a certified embodiment coach, and that's helping people
yeah,
tap into their emotions, feeling what if they're feeling anxious or angry or sad or whatever emotions coming up, having them drop into their body of okay, where are you feeling that in your body? And like actually allow them to release it through their bodies. So I take them through like a meditative state to connect with their bodies. And once they have it, either like they feel the need to cry and they actually allow themselves to cry, or we get up and shake out their body, stomp things out, scream into a pillow, like actually get these emotions out that have been stuck in the body for so long. Because yeah, it can't be talked out, it has to be felt. So, and that's like where true healing on like a cellular level can really start to take place. And I feel too, even as we were talking about with psychedelics, I think with even psilocybin and with ayahuasca, those are the two ones that I'm most familiar with. Those can really help you tap into your emotions as well and like actually feel and release things from your body, which is so healing, you know. And I'd love to get your take on this too, because as we were saying, there's no such thing as a quick fix. There's no such thing as a quick fix. Oh, if I take this medicine, if I take psilocybin, if I do a psilocybin journey, or if I do ayahuasca, bam, I'm going to be good. You know, everything's going to be gone. I'm going to process what I need to process, and I'm going to go, and my life's going to look so different. But realizing that I believe that, you know, plant medicine, it said that you can do like 5 years of therapy in one night with a plant medicine journey, which I do believe that that's true, because you get to the root. The plants show you what you need to see that your mind may be suppressing. So it opens you up to really see what you need to see, which may have taken you 5 years in therapy to get to with the mind coming in all of the time. But just because it's you see what you need to see, there still takes so much integration afterwards of like integrating what you learned. And that's where the real work starts, of actually integrating your learnings. Um, yeah, so I guess I want to get your perspective on that. I guess, you know, like the quick fix, there's no such thing as a quick fix, and how, yeah, plant medicine, how it actually really helps you see what you need to see, release things through your body, and just the shifts that you're seeing with incorporating plant medicine versus just doing talk therapy.
Looking to connect with like-minded community on your journey of self-growth, self-love, and spiritual discovery? Join the Beehive, a supportive community hosted by Holly and I, designed to help you on your personal transformation and healing journey, and to help you tap into your innate wisdom. With live monthly Q&A sessions, exclusive content, and a like-minded community, the Beehive is the perfect space to grow and step into your most authentic self. For more information and to sign up, check the link in the show notes.
yes, I agree with pretty much everything you said. It is a misnomer or a misunderstanding that it's. I understand where the confusion comes from, because we're all, the clickbait or the headlines. Mushroom therapy helps 85% of the people recover from depression or PTSD. And then you just read the quick little summary, and yes, psilocybin or psychedelics can lead to amazing results in terms of resolving and recovering from these types of issues. But when you dive into even the research on it and you read the research studies, is that where they're getting the most success, these high numbers, 65 to 85% um, resolution of the symptoms of disorder, um, is when they typically have done anywhere from 8 to 12 therapy visits in association with the mushrooms, and they're usually
Mhm.
taking two large doses a couple of months apart. So they
Yeah.
start off with some pre-sessions, they do dosing, they do integration sessions afterwards, they do more preparation sessions, another ceremony, and then integration. And then 3 months later, they assess where they're at, and they have made incredible recovery.
Wow, I can see that. Yeah, because they're actually integrating. I feel like a lot of people, that are doing this out in the world, which,
Yeah.
there's no judgment here, but I feel like a lot of people take it and then they don't integrate. But actually
Yes.
that research of them actually having phone calls with a therapist, and actually talking through what came up, it's so important to talk through what came up, understand what came up so you can start making shifts. It's almost like what's coming to mind is, if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol and you go to rehab, you get clean, you have this amount of time clean, amazing, but then you go home and you're doing the same thing at the same environment, hanging out with the same people, you're
Mhm.
more likely going to relapse. Um, than if you made some shifts, if you maybe moved somewhere new, if you started to make shifts in your life, if you started to show up, like incorporate movement and make new friends and do different things. It's the same thing with a plant medicine. If you go back into the same environment and do the same thing that you've always done and don't integrate your learnings, your life is going to be the same than it was prior to the plant medicine. It's the integration is the most important part.
Yeah, so now let me take the opposite side of it too, because yeah, I agree with you, but
Yeah.
this is what adds to the confusion, and I
Hmm.
actually have had both experiences for sure,
Yeah.
is there are people that I've had this experience. I've talked to a lot of people that have had this experience who went out with some friends to just camping recreationally, took mushrooms, and they had a life changing, it was a life changing experience for them.
Hmm.
They woke up the next day thinking, seeing, and perceiving the world differently, having made an incredible insight that changed the course of their life.
Hmm.
So that can and does happen with psychedelics.
Hmm.
Um, Another example that's fairly common, I guess, is that people who start using psychedelics recreationally stop smoking cigarettes. They've tried to stop smoking cigarettes their whole life. They go to a music festival, they take mushrooms, and then the next day they have no desire to smoke.
Hmm.
But so now let me flip back to the other side, and that is kind of one of the amazing things that happened in Washington, D.C. recently with bipartisan support is there was money set aside for to fund research for smoking cessation because there's has been a lot of research that shows that that is successful for helping people smoking cessation with using psilocybin.
Hmm.
That the research is showing they get powerful results from the use of psilocybin in helping people stop smoking. So the what I've read the research on the programs that are successful is they have a 6 week cessation program set up, and they do at least two. I'll keep wanting to call them ceremonies, but still two doses of mushrooms, typically large doses, plus the basically the cognitive behavioral therapy smoking cessation course.
Hmm.
So, you're going to increase your chances of healing and recovering and having a powerful experience if you approach it in a purposeful, mindful way. You're setting attentions, you do your research, you set up a safe environment, you do preparation ahead of time, you do integration afterwards. That's going to increase the chances of you having um, a healing experience.
Hmm.
But it can happen spontaneously.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
that's where some of the confusion comes from.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like the difference between doing it in a therapeutic space, like a therapeutic intentional space, and then doing it kind of like I don't know. I can totally see benefits of both doing it in this therapeutic space, but also, going out in nature and, this expansive experience that happens that totally shifts how you view the world, and
Yeah.
integrating that in your everyday reality of, it shifts something in your mind. It really does shift something in your mind, and it just opens you up to think about things in a completely different way. That's very beautiful and powerful and healing. So, yeah, I can see both of those, and I think that there's very much positives to it. I'm sure there's definitely negatives too, that there's a dark side of plant medicine as well. We can become way too dependent on it. We can there's dark sides to plant medicine,
Yeah.
just as there is with everything, but
Right.
I feel like there is such powerful work that's being done using these psychedelics. So yeah, I guess in your research or in your time that you've been doing it, you said you've been looking more into it in the past 2 years. Is that right?
Well, I started about 4 years ago, and I actually started. Well, I'll tell you, and I think I told you the story when I first met you. Going back
Hmm.
to, I had one of those spontaneous. Well, best best way to describe it is I had an ego dissolution.
Yeah, I love this story.
Back in college, this would have been in 1980. I was like 19 years old. Um, I was experimenting with mushrooms and LSD and mescaline, peyote, and just doing it camping with friends, or lived on in a dorm on campus. And so there'd be a group of us that would do it and just walk around campus. So we were in fairly safe environments. But the one night on mescaline, after everybody had gotten tired and had gone to bed, but I was wide awake, and my
Mhm.
roommate was asleep, so the room was dark, and so I was just sitting on the couch in the darkness, wide awake, and just kind of being with the medicine by myself. It's and I was your pretty typical 19-year-old college male who was just pretty much himself absorbed in myself, and my studies or my career or my own situation in life, fairly self-centered. And as I was sitting there and I started thinking about my situation, and all of a sudden I started having these thoughts about how fortunate I was to be in college, and how lucky I was to be experiencing what I was experiencing. And then I connected with, well, it was all because of my parents, that my parents had put up with a acting out juvenile who had lots of problems, lots of issues. They always were there supporting me, loving me, getting me to a place where I could go to college, lending me a car, helping me pay for my tuition. Over the years, had always supported me, and I had never thanked them for that. That's just what parents do. Parents send their kids to college, and
Mhm.
and I had this realization how selfish I was, and but at the same time, how grateful I was for my parents' help, and grateful to be where I was at. And I just all of a sudden just felt this tremendous love for my parents that was overwhelming.
Mhm.
And I just had this desire. It was 2 a.m. in the morning to call my parents and tell them, thank you so much. And thank you for putting up with me all these years, and supporting me and loving me like you have. And I remember thinking, well, I can't call them. It's the middle of the night. And then I had the fear that this psychedelic medicine was going to wear off me, and that the next day I would be selfish again. And
Mhm.
then I wouldn't want to tell them, that I would kind of fall back into who I'd been. But the next day, I woke up, and I was still had that feeling of gratitude and appreciation for my love and love for my parents. And I called them up, and um, it was kind of funny because I went on for 20 minutes talking about all the things they had done for me and thanking them and recalling events. And
They probably loved all of it.
well, they were just, it was
Yes, such in
dead
shock.
silence on the other end of the phone. I think they were completely in shock.
Mhm.
Here's this selfish teenager who had been selfish for the last 5, 6, 7 years is now connecting with all that they had done for me and thanking them. And yeah, they were overwhelmed, and I think a lot more in shocked as well. But from then on, I changed my relationship with my parents. I treated them differently. I
Mhm.
saw them differently. And it was a permanent change inside my body. It was a permanent shift
Mhm.
that happened in that area. Other areas in my life, I kind of fell back into being kind of selfish and self centered for quite a while. But so I told that story because when I was getting through COVID in the mental health field, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like I'm putting band-aids on things, feeling like what I'm doing isn't helping people. This isn't working. We need to deal with the trauma.
Mhm.
Right at that moment, I start reading about the research, and then I'm starting to find out that Oregon is looking at trying to make this legal to
Mhm.
use in therapy with help to help people move through PTSD.
Right.
And I got very excited because I had actually kind of hadn't thought about what happened when I was 19, but I saw the potential of in the power of plant medicine. And then to kind of answer your question is I decided that I was going to try to transition out of the mental health field and start working with plant medicine. And I started microdosing
Mhm.
first off, about 4 years ago, just kind of getting my toe in the water, so to speak, and there was a lot of anecdotal information out there about the benefits of microdosing.
Mhm.
And I started microdosing, kind of found a person. It was always hard being my age and in the mental health field, going out and finding mushrooms.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a guy that worked at one of the marijuana stores that connected me, but I started microdosing psilocybin, and then just from the very first microdose, I noticed the ego calming down. I noticed
Yeah.
the reduction of anxiety
Mhm.
and just being more present at very low doses. And I got very excited because it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this is what I need. This is helping me. And so I did a lot of self exploration with it, um, and then I started sharing with other people, and then other people were asking for assistance, and then over 2 year period, it evolved into where I was in the role of have been in the role of microdosing coach or microdosing guide,
Mhm.
helping people learn how to microdose, talking to them about kind of what's going on with psychedelics and what's fact, what's myth, and kind of navigating through all the information. Of course, Oregon is going through, has been going through getting uh, a psilocybin facilitation centers is what they're called,
Oh, that would be good.
up up and running.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, that's I'll stop talking there for a while.
Yeah, well, I love that story. Yeah, you had shared that with me, and I just think that's so beautiful. I'm so glad that that happened to you when you were 19 to just even start shifting your relationship with your parents. Like that type of, journey that you went on with that plant medicine completely changed the trajectory of like your life pretty much by shifting that relationship with your family. And it's even like the integration of that, like continuing to remember that experience. What plant medicine does is it gives you a felt sense
Mhm.
of something in your body, like a felt sense of this love for your parents. And then that's the integration of when you're talking to your parents, you can remember that felt sense, because yeah. And I feel like, yeah, I just love that so much.
Well, yeah, you probably could even tell as even me just telling that story, I start getting choked up
Yeah.
because it just fills me with such emotion. And
Hmm.
you're right. The work I've done with plant medicine over the last 4 years, I've become more embodied, more connected with the compassion that's inside of me, and It's where it allowed me to open up my heart and connect with people. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel the love and the joy and the gratitude inside of myself, and I can either be talking to someone like you telling a story, or on my own and just recall when I've done large doses of mushrooms and go back into the journey I took and reconnect with a deep sense of stillness and peace, or
Mm-hmm.
a connection with Mother Earth and nature,
Yeah.
and just feel that embodiment. And it's getting out of my head and moving down into my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I've been working with this for 4 years, and it's just been a very powerful, healing, intentional journey for
Yeah.
sure.
We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. Yeah, I love that. And I know, yeah, for me too, it's because I've microdosed a bit as well.
Yeah,
And also through my embodiment coaching program too, of being able to like tap into my body, my emotions, I've been able to become more like feel safe in my body. But I know specifically when I first started microdosing psilocybin, I've gone off and on and off with it.
yeah,
But I know days when I would microdose, I would have like full blown cries. Like it like really
mm,
helped me tap into my emotions. And then when I started feeling safe, I can now access my emotions without needing a microdose or whatever it may be. But it really helped me be able to feel my emotions again. Like it helps you tap in to your body, get back into your body, out of your head, and feel what you need to heal or feel what you need to feel so you can like release it from your body. And even for me, during one of my big I went I went to a women's group, and I was really trying to find like safety, feeling safe in community, feeling safe with other women. And we did psilocybin, and I believe it was MDMA and psilocybin, I believe. And it was with a facilitator, like a trained facilitator as well.
yeah,
We set intentions. It was very intentional, very, very healing. Like the intent, it's all during these ceremonies, it's very, the intention there is for healing. Um, so it was a very safe, sacred space. This medicine is very sacred to me, and I know you respect it as well. It's like very sacred. It's medicine. This is not, I don't believe it's drugs. I believe this is the medicine. This
yeah,
is the medicine we need to heal the mental health crisis. It's medicine. So during that, it was very much my intention was to feel safe in my body, feel safe with women. And I have just this vivid memory from that time of me, like I was talking with the other women, but I was feeling anxious, and I got the message of it's time to go inward. And so I kind of laid down and I was doing some deep breathing, and it was like, what if we just didn't care what other people thought right now? It was like, I felt like I was guiding myself. It felt like my own voice, but it was very much like the medicine working through me of what if we didn't care what other people thought about you right now? And why don't we just focus on our breath and do some deep breathing? And as I was doing the deep breathing and just like coming home to myself, it was just like these beautiful messages of like, you are beautiful, you are enough, and you've always been enough. And with these positive, beautiful thoughts that were coming in and me deep breathing, I got the warmest felt
mm,
sense in my body of safety. It felt like I
mm,
was giving myself a huge hug. Like it felt like my nervous system, it just was this huge sense of safety, love in my body that was from me deep belly breathing and also
mm,
speaking to myself kindly. And it was that just, I'll never forget that felt sense of warmth and safety. And then the integration too is carrying that into my life of whenever I'm feeling anxious, whenever I'm feeling, not safe, it's that I do my deep belly breathing. I speak to myself. I see the younger part of me that needs to be seen and let her know she's beautiful. I love her. I see her with that deep belly breathing. And it's that felt sense of safety in my body again that I got the night when I was doing my plant medicine. It's like that will forever stay with me. And now I have access to it. We all have access to it too. It's like the deep breathing, but that felt sense that happened during ceremony, I'll carry that with me because it's that sense of safety of being back in my body. And I think that's the biggest gift that plant medicine has done for me, is helping me feel safe in my body again and releasing things from my body that aren't serving me, specifically like with ayahuasca as well. I've talked about it a bit. I had a really powerful journey of her helping me release this need to be perfect out of my body and just coming back home to my body. And so it's just, yeah, the plant medicine really helps get back in our body, stop thinking our way through life and start feeling our way through life, getting connected back into our heart space to love, to ourselves. It gives us the connection back to ourselves, and you can do that without the plant medicine 100%. I did a lot of my journey without plant medicine. I just recently incorporated it, but it's totally shifted everything for me. I can see the benefits in it. It's a tool. Like these plant medicines are tools to help us really connect. And it's a deep, deep cellular healing that is so profound when it's done in like a healing, when it's done with the intention for healing, I feel, which again, you can do it without even having that intention, how your story you shared. But when there's like this intention of deep healing, it's like, yeah, it's so powerful too.
No, all you just so well said and so beautiful, and you keep tapping into what I also have found is I guess if I would call it the foundational block or the foundation of healing from trauma, is being able to find safety in your body.
Right.
And that is sometimes very hard to find. There's things like breath work, again, somatic
Mhm.
therapies that are very helpful for helping you find safety in your body. But for me, the psychedelics is what helped me have that sense, that find safety in my body, that then set up over the last few years the path for me to work through the layers of my trauma. I almost see like a trauma onion, and
Mhm.
that trauma onion you can start peeling layers off once you got that core base of sense of safety in your body, and then the medicine starts working with you, and the intelligence of the medicine and the healing intelligence in our body work together to start peeling off the different layers. And
Mhm.
it seems to just peel off the layer that you needed next. It's
Right.
not always what you asked for, but it's what you needed. It just
Yeah.
it intuitively knows what you need to deal with next, even though it can be overwhelming. But as you process through with integration, you realize, oh yeah, that's what needed to come next.
Yeah. And something I want to say too is it is such an act of strength and courage to utilize plant medicine. It's not easy. You are taken to really dark places and like really painful memories that happened to you growing up or whatever's holding you back. It takes a lot of strength and courage to do plant medicine. When you're doing it with this like therapeutic sense, as well as, people that have bad trips when they are going out and doing it during music festivals, it's probably because they were taken somewhere that they needed to see but weren't really ready for. But it takes you to, your wounds, what you need to see so you can heal and integrate these parts of you so you can come back to your wholeness. And I think that's something that I really want people to know is it's such an act of courage and strength to be
Yes.
able to do this medicine because it's not easy. It is not easy. It's really hard. It's really, you're feeling everything and you're seeing these hard things that your mind has been suppressing for you to avoid for so long. So
Yeah.
it's the work. It's like the real true healing inner work that we need people doing to really heal, you
Yeah.
know, to shift. And I keep getting the message too of like, plant medicine is how we are going to end the mental health crisis. It's how we're going to heal the mental health crisis, because that is what is getting people to the root of their issues so they can start to heal. And I feel like what I heard too is like 6 years down the road, I feel like it's going to be much more accepted. But the pioneers that are doing this work, you, myself, other people that are really learning and seeing the positive effects of this work and being advocates for it and understanding it. So, yeah, it's really, really powerful, positive work.
Yes. And I think that it is an act of courage, I believe, to head down this path. And I remember my wife early on when I told her I wanted to take a large dose of mushrooms, and she was okay.
Yeah.
And she kind of saw what was involved with it and what I went through, and she went up to me later and expressed how brave I was for doing that. I
Yeah.
was trying to understand what led me to want to do this, to kind of take this challenge on. But I realized I was tired of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I was just tired of trying this and trying to do this. I myself have seen numerous counselors. I've done
Yeah.
numerous types of therapy, but there's this, my trauma onion was always there, and
Right.
nothing seemed to really get at that. Prescription medications, nothing. And I think that's what brings people to psychedelics when they are tired of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's going all the way back to the crisis work I was doing. Those people are tired of suffering and
Right.
want to change in their life. And thank goodness now there is an avenue for these people to go down, once they're stable, of course. Anybody listening to the show that's considering psychedelics, I highly recommend that they do their own research on two
Mm-hmm.
topics. One is neuroplasticity and the default mode network. And what that's about is there's a lot of information out there. In fact, Holly, I can send you a couple of my files that I have links to,
Mm-hmm.
everything from research to just summary articles, and people can pick different things to read so I can make it easier for them. But to understand why this is such a powerful medicine is that science has proven that the psilocybin psychedelics literally neurologically help rewire the brain.
Mm-hmm.
It opens a window of neuroplasticity, which is a way of saying that the brain is open to learning something new. And when it's learning this something new, it's ready to hardwire that new insight, that new information into your brain by either creating new neural connections or increasing connections with different parts of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that kind of ties into the default mode network, which many people may have heard of, but if not, is a really fascinating. I'll see if I can summarize that. Is the default mode network is a group of four parts of the brain that the job of the brain of the default mode network is it creates our sense of self. It's
Mm-hmm.
the story we tell about ourselves, about who we are today, who we were in the past, who I want to be in the future. It's, well, I'm a father and I like to play golf, or I like to, fish, or and I like these type of people. I don't like these type. All the stories we tell about ourselves, who we are, what religion, what politics, is this exist inside of the default mode network. It also ties into memories. It's kind of how we interact with the world. So what they discovered, which is a great story to tell that there's not time for today, but how they discovered the default mode network. But what they found is that when someone uses psychedelics, that it disrupts that part of the brain, that the default mode network is very self-contained. It doesn't integrate much with other parts of the brain, and there's just these looping, ruminating thoughts and stories about ourselves that just keep playing over and over. And basically what this is, it's like the egoic mind,
Hmm.
right? It's that voice in our head. It's also, that's where the critical voice in our head exists. The the old tapes we play from our when our parents said something to us, or a coach or a teacher that was negative and critical, and that we play over and over inside ourselves. Psychedelics disrupt that part of the brain, and actually it becomes more integrated with the rest of the brain and becomes flexible and open to taking in new information. And the ego voice, the critical voice, quiets down, is the best way to say it, and steps into the background, basically.
Yeah, I feel like it helps you even like learn that voice too of like your soul,
Yes.
your intuition versus your ego. And
Yes.
yeah, that negative voice, the ego, and it's like getting your soul and your intuition in the driver's seat and your ego in the passenger seat. So it's no longer driving and like controlling your thoughts and being super negative and keeping you in these negative loops.
Yeah, I mean, hit that nail right on the head. Once that voice is quiet down, basically what I refer to people as your true self emerges.
Yes,
Connect to
the
your
true
true
authentic
self,
self.
and
Yeah.
you hear your true self for the first time. And guess what? Your true self is a very kind, loving, grateful, appreciative person who's connected to nature, who wants to do the healthy thing for their body, wants to do the healthy thing for other people. That's what's underneath that egoic voice.
Yeah.
And just to have even brief experiences and even microdosing, that's why I really started microdosing, is I would have 2 or 3 hours of not having my critical voice play, but
Mhm.
really who the true Gary was.
Yeah, the voice of your soul, who you
Yeah.
truly are, your true authentic self, which is just that all of us at the end of the day, we come from, the same source. We are all love. We are all light. Only love is real. But these painful experiences that happen to us growing up create these negative narratives that then take over and make you feel like you're not good enough and you're stupid and just play these negative scenarios in your mind. But when you strip all of that away, you come back to your heart, come back
Yes.
home to your wholeness, your soul,
Yeah.
and have that voice of like love, compassion, because that's the real you. That's all of us at the end of the day. We are all love, but these painful experiences just really taint us down and bring us down, and the voice of the ego gets louder and louder and louder because it wants to protect you from not getting hurt again.
Yes.
But when you realize you're safe,
Yes.
you're safe, it's safe for you to be yourself and let your authentic self come out more. Yeah, that's when you really start to heal and step into your true authenticity, which is living in the like there's so much freedom when you step into your true authentic self.
Yes. And why I wanted to make sure we got on this topic, is because this is why they are having such positive results in research. And
Mm,
this is why it's not a drug. It's not like alcohol or marijuana or something that just alters your state and
right.
then you go back to baseline.
Mhm.
This is actually creating new neural pathways in the
Mhm.
brain. It's basically disrupting the brain, shaking up the snow globe in a good way, because we have these rigid, inflexible thought processes in our mind and in our body, and it shakes up the snow globe, and then we're open to learning and seeing things as they are and experiencing our true self, our soul, as we are.
Mhm.
And that's one of the benefits of microdosing. If you're microdosing 2 times a week, let's say, and you do this for 2 months, there is repeated exposure to the psilocybin, having new thoughts, hardwiring in new information, new perspectives. The next day, you're kind of working on integrating that, and then a couple of days later, you do it again. And so it
Mhm.
starts building. Actually, anybody that asks me about whether they should do a large dose of mushroom and they're apprehensive, I encourage them to start doing some microdosing first.
Yeah, especially I know it really supports people struggling with anxiety and depression because think about how stuck in your mind you are. And then when you're starting to microdose, it's opening your mind up, releasing that negative voice, helping you. Yeah, I feel it's there. The research with that supporting anxiety and depression with the
Yeah,
microdosing is really exciting too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also there's so many beautiful parts to this, is because as you're hardwiring things in, you're hardwiring neural pathways into embodiment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you are hardwiring in a pathway into your body that this will become more natural. It's just like now, instead of going down this old rutted road that you've been down for 30 years, you're on this new road, and it's just self-reinforcing, because you're more present, you're more loving, you're less anxious, you're less depressed. So you're going to be walking that road more, and now you're creating that new neural pathway into your body, and you start perceiving the world from your chest area or from your heart, versus perceiving the world from just what the mind is telling you about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's helping open that connection back up to yourself.
Yeah,
Like you're opening that connection back up to yourself. And it's so beautiful and
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
And the last thing I want to touch on too, real quick, is I know for me, like when people hear I've done plant medicine, it's like, oh my gosh, what was wrong with you? Like, were you
yeah,
okay? It's like, anyone can benefit from plant medicine. Like every single person has traumatic things happen to them, whether big T or little t, like big
yeah,
traumatic things or little trauma. It's like I thought, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had a really good childhood. Like nothing super traumatic happened to me. I had all of my needs met. Yes, my parents got divorced, but I had so much love surrounding me. Like I thought that I was totally fine. Then diving into it, it's like, oh my gosh, no, I was such a sensitive kid. I was never safe to feel my emotions. Whenever I didn't know the answer to something, I got shut down and I internalized that I'm stupid. And so that made me nervous to talk and made my anxiety super bad. And so it's just even these little things that happen growing up that everyone has painful experiences that happen to them that are affecting them today. So
right,
anyone can benefit from this work. You don't need to have had something huge and traumatic happen to you to benefit from this. We all have daily little anxieties, negative things that we say to ourselves that are stemming from these younger parts, and it's really powerful work that anyone can benefit from. And it almost feels like, even with, I feel like this would be so powerful to start prescribing people instead of doing, the anxiety, the antidepressants, like actually microdosing would be really powerful. That's,
yeah,
there needs to be
yeah,
much more research and all of that that goes into it, but it's helping you reconnect with yourself and, break down those walls and understand where these thought processes are coming from instead of just putting a band-aid on much deeper issues that are going on.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, well said, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, the microdosing is, the research will say that it's inconclusive or it's equal to placebo effect. But if you dive into the
Mhm.
research, part of that is because they haven't approached it with the same process that you need to with large dose, which is set and setting. There still needs to be intention. There still needs to be intention. You still need to set up a safe environment, even at a microdose level. And a lot of the research does not do that process. One research in particular I read talked about, they gave people a baggie full of microdosing pills with the schedule of when to take them, and you take it, you go home and take it for 2 weeks, and then they talk to you 2 weeks later and
Mhm.
evaluate you. And then, it's there's no guidance, there's no
Right, there needs
preparation,
to
no
be, yeah,
understanding,
it
there's
needs
no
to be
discussion,
guidance.
yeah, about the default mode network or about kind of embodiment, and no
Mhm,
pre and post integration. And that's why, whether you do an online course or find a facilitator, online or in person for microdosing, I even recommend it for that. I mean, we all just want to be able to take a pill like vitamin C and then things feel better and be better, but it takes work. It
yeah, it's
takes
the inner work, yeah.
Yes, it takes
Yeah,
time.
and I definitely agree with Gary, do your own research, 100% do your own research on this, and if you are interested in doing it, like looking at trained professionals that are in this work that are in integrity, because there's a lot of people in the plant medicine field that I'm really during my whole journey with this, there's a lot of people in the plant medicine that are not in integrity doing this work. So making sure that you know who you're doing this work with, that they are in integrity, that they're doing this from a healing space, that they really honor this medicine because it is medicine and it needs to be respected and it needs to be honored, and really just doing your own due diligence and research when it comes to this, because it can get dangerous if you're just going out and getting it from whoever, doing it with facilitators that cannot hold the container. Really do your research and get trained professionals that have been recommended, or that you've heard good things about. Because just it's all new kind of things that are coming out. So I feel like definitely doing your own research is really needed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to get into is I also frequently get calls about people who are wanting to use psilocybin, but they're taking antidepressants.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
there's a lot of people that are in that situation. There is some good information out there, and I want to recommend a medical doctor who has a podcast. Her name is Lynn Marie Morsky, and we can put that in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
She has the Psychedelic Medicine podcast, and she's also the president of the Psychedelic Medical Association. Her podcasts are designed to educate doctors in the field who are having to answer questions from patients. So that's her mission, is to educate the medical system about the benefits of plant medicine. She's an incredible woman. And there's also, you can search in her podcast when she talks about antidepressants, because there is a avenue and a pathway to uh, use, to microdose, to do large doses. If you do your research, listen to her information. They are kind of developing. In just the last 2 years, they've gone from no, you need to stop your antidepressants completely, to no, that's not the healthy way to do it. We need to maybe taper down or temporarily stop them if you're going to be doing a large dose. So that's an evolving technique of managing, being able to use psilocybin either as you get off antidepressants or while still on them. But I don't want to say too much. I'd rather people do their own research and listen to the doctor's recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. We'll definitely put that in the show notes for people that are interested. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything that we missed that you want to say?
Oh, I think, yeah, I'm glad I remembered the antidepressant part, because that's just very common, because people are wanting to move away from antidepressants and they are
Right.
looking into this. And so, yeah, I'm glad we'll have a little something in the show notes for that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to have Gary's email in the show notes as well. So if anyone has any questions around, what could people ask you? What are you open to people emailing you about?
If anybody's trying to understand the psilocybin facilitation centers, what the law in Oregon allows and doesn't allow, I can try to help them navigate that.
Mhm.
I'm also open to talking about microdosing, or just any questions they had about anything that I said during the show. But yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much. And I'll have all of that information in the show notes. And thank you so much for your time, Gary. And I'm sure I want to have you on again. So we definitely will later down the road. But thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you, Holly. It was fun talking to you today.
Yeah. So good chatting with you. Thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next Wednesday. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.